This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, we're going to call the meeting to order. Finance Committee, the clerk will note the members present and approval of the agenda.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the agenda for the Finance Committee meeting for Thursday, November 2nd, 2023.
I second that. Any opposition? Hearing none, it's approved. Action items. We're going to talk about the utility statement. Who's on that one? Okay, let's go. We're fast forward today.
That works for me.
Okay.
So I have RFP 24-005 for the utility statement processing and mailing services. I'm asking today that you consider recommending approval of the award recommendation for RFP 24-005. We did go ahead and post our RFP back out September 10th of this year. We did receive 4 proposals and were received on October 10th. The evaluation committee reviewed all 4 proposals, and then they did recommend awarding that contract to Postal Pros, which is our current vendor right now. I do second that, and I'm asking that you guys go ahead and consider approving that and placing it on the consent agenda.
Question.
Does this fit inside the budget amount?
It does. And they actually have the best pricing out of everybody. And so it was just a bonus that they're our current vendor right now.
Okay, so it requires no budget adjustment.
Correct.
Great. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I get to do all these today, kids. Okay, Mr. Chairman,
Sir.
I move that we award recommendation for RFP 24-005 utility statement processing and mailing service and authorization for the city manager to enter into the contract with Postal Pro Southwest of Albuquerque, New Mexico to be placed upon the consent agenda.
Second. Any opposition? Hearing none, moving right on.
That didn't take you long. Lucky you. You're out of here.
So I've got something shoved in here. Oh, we got things out of whack here. Which one of you ladies is going to do the first lease?
Carl Day lease is me. Consider recommending Carl Day to enter a 1-year lease agreement for T Hangar 120 Space 5. Carl Day requests T Hangar 120 Space 5, consisting of 1,002 square feet more or less, commencing December 1, 2023 and ending November 30th, 2024 for the purpose of storing and maintaining a privately owned aircraft. The tenant agrees to pay the landlord as rent the sum of $2,580.12 annually, payable in 12 monthly installments of $215.01. This was increased by 3%.
Okay, is this the one that the hangar door fell off the other day?
Nope, that was Larry Parker and it's been repaired.
It's been reinstalled. It has not been repaired.
The units are being welded today.
Okay. Yeah, I occasionally know what's going on now. Questions?
No question. I'm going to make a motion.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I recommend the Carl Day and the city of Roswell enter into a 1-year lease agreement for T Hangar 120-5 at the Roswell Air Center to be placed on the consent agenda.
Second. Any further comment? Any negative? Passes 2-0. And painting.
Okay, this is to consider recommending Almond Painting, Inc. to enter a 5-year lease agreement for Building 1049. They are the current tenant. They've requested an additional 5-year lease for 2,500 square feet, more or less, located at the Roswell Air Center, commencing November 1st and end November 1st, 2023, and ending October 31st, 2028. The tenant agrees to pay the landlord as the rent sum of $5,625.00, payable or annually payable in 12 monthly installments of $468.75 for the first year of the lease. Each year thereafter, rent will be increased by 3% or the latest 12-month percentage change in CPIU, whichever is greater. This rent was increased from $1.14 per square foot to $2.25 per square foot to maintain our classification of buildings, and they did accept that increase.
Question?
No.
How long they leased that facility?
The last was a 5-year. I don't know prior to that.
They've been there,
They've been there a while.
When I was here, they were.
they've been good tenants.
Yes.
Okay. Questions? Motion?
Motion. Mr. Chairman, move that we enter into a 5-year lease agreement with Almond Painting, Inc. For building 1049 located at the Roswell Area Center to be placed on the consent agenda for next council meeting.
Second. Any opposition? Hearing none, passes 2-0. Summit Food Services.
This is consider recommending Summit Food Services request for a 1-year renewal. This is the second of 1-year renewal of 7 on their current lease. They are the cafe/bar consisting of 1,685 square feet, more or less, and the terminal. This will begin December 1, 2023 and end November 30th, 2024. The tenant agrees to perform the services described in Exhibit B at the premises and pay the landlord commissions in the sum of, and we will be going into the third year at 8%. From their increases from 4 to 6 to 8. And then the net sales shall be defined as gross sales minus applicable sales tax. Summit shall provide a monthly operating statement to the landlord, which shall detail the revenue based on the operation. They have done that regularly and on time, and commission payment shall be due within 30 days of the issuance of the operating statement. And we will continue forward just requesting for that additional renewal.
Questions?
Yeah, I do. Let me find my marked up portion here. What do we believe when we enter into these percentage increases or percentage rents? What do we believe the amount will be? What are their current sales now?
They're averaging between, they started at about 1,200 a month, 1,200 in gross sales a month, and they're now up to 8,700 a month. So, and they have increased in sales and we have increased in percentage.
$360. $400,000 investment. Wow.
Wasn't a great investment, counselor.
It's not an investment.
Bingo.
My gosh.
I ate out there the other day with Jennifer and it was pretty good. I'm not gonna make a trip out there just to eat there, but if I'm there, there quite a bit, so.
Just have difficulty with this, Counselor.
Well, I understand, but at least they're headed in the right.
Providing a service that doesn't exist out there. But I guess the other question I have is, I made a note of this, the liquor license. Is that a separate lease?
Yes, sir. They pay $500 a month.
How much?
$500 a month.
$500 a month?
For that current.
That's not based on sales or anything. It's just $500 a month flat.
Yes. And it will increase to 1,000 monthly within the next year.
It's a separate lease that we'll
Yes.
look at
Yes.
separately,
They're leasing our license, right?
Yes.
right? Yeah, beer and wine sales shall be subject to the execution of a separate lease of the city's liquor license. It says Exhibit B. So, Well, I'll hold my nose and make the notion. I just don't think it's a great deal for us, but
No,
at least provides a service to the people out in that area. So again, we're subsidizing a service is what we're doing. And so, Mr. Chairman, I move that we enter into an agreement with Summit Food Services request for 1-year renewal of their current lease, which is the second year of the renewal out of 7 years, correct?
Mhm.
Okay. Be placed on a consent agenda.
Second. Any opposition? Hearing none, it's 2-0. Next item.
Right, this is, for
Trans-Arrow Limited, I think.
yes, Trans-Arrow. So consider recommending Trans-Arrow Limited to enter a one-year lease agreement with 4 one-year renewal options for building 1166 located at the Roswell Air Center. Trans-Arrow requests the termination of their existing land lease as well, dated March 3rd, 2023, upon execution of the new lease. They originally were going to put a trailer on a piece of property, and now they've chosen to go a different route, renting the building out at 1166. This building consists of 18,424 square feet, more or less, commencing on October 1, 2023, and ending September 30th, 2024, for the purpose of medevac personnel living quarters and training services. Their commencement date will probably be moved just based on when this was presented originally to the Airport Advisory Commission, and now we have bumped down a month before it's come to you. So I would ask that we change that to December 1st of 2023, and then ending November 30th of 2024. The tenant agrees to pay the landlord as the rent, the sum of $73,696.00 annually, payable in 12 monthly installments of $6,141.33. The first year of the lease. Each year after, the rent will increase by 3% or current CPI, whichever is greater. There is an Exhibit C providing the scope of work and dollar amount accepted as the landlord approved improvements to the kitchen, and will be applied as monthly rent payments up to the dollar amount of $27,736.80. So that'll be the total minus the sales tax in the scope of work. Once the $27,736.80 is exhausted, regular monthly rent payments will continue to be made by the tenant.
Questions?
Just for curiosity, what did that building lease for the previous?
They had an entire parcel for about $6,000 a month.
Yeah, because that included the entire building plus about
Acreage.
20 acres. Oh, no, yeah, almost 200 acres
200, okay,
for a fraction of this.
just curious.
So you wanted to amend something here?
Just the commencement date to December 1, 2023, and then the ending date of the first year is November 30th, 2024.
Are they occupying the facility now?
No, sir.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we enter into a lease with Trans-Arrow Limited.
Wait a minute. Let's get these months right first.
Hmm?
You want to change October to what again?
No, to December 1 and November 30.
October to December under the term?
December to November of next year.
Okay, I need that motion first.
Yeah.
Well, you kind of got to do it. Yeah.
All motion, because it's not built in there.
Okay,
So.
try it. I'll see if I like it.
Yeah.
If not, I won't say.
And you won't find anybody to make another motion.
Well, it's right there.
Whatever you want to do, whatever you want to do, Mr. Chairman. So I move that we enter into a lease agreement with Trans-Arrow Limited for a one-year lease agreement with 4 one-year renewals for building 1166 located at the Roswell Air Center, and to terminate the existing land lease dated March 3rd, 2023 on execution of this lease. And this lease term will commence on December 1, 2023 and ending on November 30, 2024.
Okay, second. Convoluted play, but that's all right. Any opposition? Hearing none, passes.
I guess my threat worked.
No, I could have just left them in the clouds.
All right.
And then we're talking about WWRC
So this is to consider approval to allocate $134,625.44 to hire WWRC utilizing their estate purchasing agreement for roof services to replace the roof at 610. As a result of wind damage on February 26, 2023, Building 610 requires a roof replacement. WWRC is an approved contractor for ITB statewide price agreement and has submitted a proposal, and the insurance company has accepted. State wage agreements will be requested upon approval of the PO. PO will require the notice of intent for state wages and bonds for the ITB. Funding for this project is included in the ROW budget cash balance utilizing GL code 5100-433-261-4002. The insurance anticipates completions by April of 2024, and they will provide full reimbursement for the repair. If you can switch the slide, you can see the condition in which the roof is in. And at this point, we've done an emergency repair to pull that back down. We have had one small water loss since the rain started, and so I would like to get this moving as quick as possible. Just wanted to add that for your consideration.
No budget adjustment required.
If you're using cash balance, yes, it's going to require a budget adjustment. It is not in the budget adjustment for today, though.
But we have reimbursement.
Right, yes, yeah.
We will be reimbursed, but it's going to require a budget adjustment.
Yeah.
But we will get 100% reimbursement.
Yes.
Okay. Okay with that then. Okay. Any other questions? Looking for a motion. Okay. Mr. Chairman, I move that we allocate $134,625.44 to hire WWRC using contract number as stated previously to replace the roof at building 610 to be placed on the consent agenda.
Any opposition? Hearing none, passes 2-0. So now we're to approving budget adjustment for the fiscal year.
Agenda item number 7 is a budget adjustment. The finance department is requesting a budget adjustment for the line items in Exhibit A. These adjustments are for various grants and other departmental adjustments. Various funds and revenues, there's $425,000 in increase, and expenses $431,290. Finance is asking for consider approval of this budget adjustment for fiscal year ending June 30th, 2024.
Grants that came in after our original budget, so we're asking
And we just,
so they can.
and we missed 2 items.
Yeah.
They're not big numbers, so. Just. You got somewhere you need to go, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, I gotta go to Lubbock.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve Resolution 23XX, approving budget adjustment for fiscal year June 30, 2024 to be placed on the consent agenda.
Second, any opposition? Hearing none, passes 2-0. Professional services agreement with Mead & Hunt.
Yes, Chair. The next items that I'm going to be presenting were all approved in the Project Priority Council in October. This was one of them. It's consider approving professional service agreement, Mead & Hunt for the strategic plan, as well as approved purchase order for this item should it pass. RFP was advertised seeking a qualified consultant with experience, focus, vision, and goals to assist in developing the strategic plan for the RAC. Mead & Hunt's proposal was reviewed and selected as the most qualified consultant to perform this service. Financial consideration was $233,000, which includes GRT. There is a state aviation grant that will fund 90% of it, so they will be paying $209,700. Our local share will be $23,300. And we do have it in the FY capital fund budget. And I'd ask that this be considered for approval.
Questions?
As long as it's in the budget, I'm okay. So, Mr. Chairman. It'll be a dual purpose. And we're going to approve the professional service agreement with Mead and Hunt, Roswell Air Center strategic plan, as well as approve the purchase order. This item as well. Be placed on the consent agenda.
Second. Any further discussion? Any negative votes? Passes 2-0. Got to be quick today.
Yeah, let me ask you, when have they started or they will start?
They will start. They have not started. We have a kickoff meeting set up for next week,
How long do they anticipate?
8 months.
8 months to get the plan completed?
Yes.
Okay, safe gate for lighting.
We ask that you consider approval of a contract with ADB SafeGate for airfield lighting system maintenance for Roswell Air Center, as well as approved purchase order. SafeGate is offering a two-phase maintenance approach. The first phase would focus on resolving immediate fixes to the airfield lighting and maintenance items. Second phase will focus on ongoing maintenance. ADB will provide a service engineer on site for 2 weeks per month in the first year. In years 2 and 3, service engineer will be on site 1 week per month. We would like to utilize Sourcewell contract 110122, which expires January 13th of 2027. The first year contract would be for $180,000, which includes, we do have $200,000 in parts approved for this in the budget. Our first year with the state aviation grant, we have a 90-10 grant. State would be $162,000. Our local share is $18,000. In years 2 and 3, state will fund $81,315 with our local share of $9,035. This is in the budget, and I'd ask that this be considered for approval.
No question here. Do you have a question? Mr. Chairman, I move that you approve the contract ADB SafeGate airfield lighting system maintenance and purchase order thereof be placed on the consent agenda.
Second. Any further discussion? Any negative votes? Passes 2-0. Item number 10, task order M for armed forces.
We ask that you consider approval of task order M, Armstrong Consultants for the scope of work and design of a loading area pit for slurry for the BLM at the Roswell Air Center, as well as purchase order. BLM would like the ability to load 2 slurry aircraft at the same time during fire season. This would allow for a quicker turn of the aircraft. Armstrong Consultants has experience in designing loading pits. The financial consideration is BLM has allocated $300,000 in the lease for the purchase of this. $96,010, which includes the New Mexico GRT for Armstrong's services. And it is in the budget. And we'd ask that this be considered for approval. We do have 2 representatives from BLM here, Nathan and Justin. So if you have any questions.
I have no questions.
I got it.
No.
Well, this thing's going out there paying attention.
Yep.
Okay. What's your pleasure?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the task order M to Armstrong Consultants for scope of work and design of a loading area for slurry at the Roswell Air Center. And that this be, and they approve the purchase order thereof be placed on the consent agenda.
Second. Any further comments? Hearing none. Any negative votes? Passes 2-0.
You know, Jennifer, what I like is you just keep bringing this free money to us.
I try. Okay, that one was mine. Give me some credit, Ed.
No such thing as
Free. You got to work to get free. I like this, reimbursements.
I say is we're not leaving it on the table.
Exactly.
All right, task order I, Armstrong Consultant. Excuse me.
We ask that you consider task order L to Armstrong Consultants for scope of work and design of the BLM taxi lane, as well as a purchase order. The state legislature appropriated $5.5 million for the BLM firefighting taxi lane. BLM utilizes a portion of the ramp on the northeast side of the airport. The congestion in this area between the slurry tankers and other tenants can be time consuming for the tankers to get filled. And it would get them a turn of 180 degrees to get to the air runway quicker. The new taxi lane will allow for pull-through type slurry loading, allowing for quicker entering and exiting. And if you'd like to, this would be, the small one is the pit that's going to be
Yeah.
designed. The larger one is the taxi lane.
Yellow is a taxiway that's going to be done.
Yes.
Okay.
So financial consideration is $727,263, which includes the GRT for the design. We do have 100% reimbursement from the state aviation grant, which is in the budget. We'd ask this be approved.
This has been needed since they've been bringing the DC-10s in.
No, I know. It's been needed. There was a lot of discussion last year about. I guess one of the other questions I have is total grant is for 5.5 million.
Correct. This is just for design.
This is just isn't right. So the rest of it's got to be for construction.
Correct.
And hopefully
They anticipate it coming in at
at
least
4.3.
4.3. Yep.
Yeah. So what happens if it comes in 5.5?
We will have to.
Will you guys write a check? We're looking for reimbursables, sir. I know, Justin, you're good for it.
So
No pressure.
I like it to work out.
we could look at, I know the engineers are going to be talking very hard with the contractors to, when they build this.
Yeah, I'm always concerned when
Otherwise,
when these guys always give you an estimate. Very seldom do you see it come in below. Very seldom.
no, yeah.
And in the terms of rising material costs in today's world.
That's a heavy-duty taxiway because you got to support those loaded DC-10s.
Right.
It's
Concrete.
expensive.
It's going to be a lot of concrete for it.
Oh,
Yeah.
And rebar. and
Yeah.
All sorts of stuff. The engineer's sitting over there.
30 inches deep.
Hmm.
30 inches deep.
30.
The last.
Lots of labor too.
Oh, yeah.
Wow. I'm concerned that it's going to come in a lot higher. But I guess we'll be back to having a discussion with the state.
We'll go round up. We'll try to round up. We'll go pick pockets. All right.
Future consideration.
Is there any contingency built, Mr. Chair?
Yeah.
Is there any contingency built into the grant agreement at this point we're aware of for cost?
Not the whole rest, yeah.
They're just pulled a number, I think. They knew they had 5.5 million to work with. That's what I believe happened. So, I mean, the engineering is 20% of the whole project. So,
It's going to take some engineering because there's two places there that's low. You can see the one ditch there on the left part of it there. They've got to build a bridge really, because that's a major drainage that goes out in front of Hangar 91 or right adjacent to it. And that sucker, when it rains hard here, which it does every once in a while, it gets backed up.
yeah. There's going to be some work done there. Well, they anticipate having this done before next fire season?
No.
No. Okay. No further discussion by me, Mr. Chair. So I move that we approve task force Delta Armstrong Consultants for scope of work and define BLM Taxi Lane, as well as the purchase order in the amount of $727,263 to be placed on consent agenda. Let's see if that stays.
Okay. Second. Any further comment? Negative votes, passes 2-0. Air sweeper.
Okay, my last item. We ask that you consider approval to purchase an air sweeper from Temco through the state purchasing agreement for the Roswell Air Center, as well as for the purchase order. We're seeking approval for the purchase of an air sweeper. If we get the 2004 model, it will be $314,255. Otherwise, we have to move up to the 2025 model, which would be $27,755. We have in the budget approved $325,000 for this piece of equipment. We also have a state aviation grant that will fund 90% of this grant. So depending on, we get the 2024, their portion will be $282,840. If we go for the 2025 model, $292,500. So we ask that the current sweeper we have is a 2007, and it's held together by the.
So this air sweeper, it actually blows the
It
debris?
sucks.
It sucks
It
it?
sucks.
Oh,
Yeah.
we like,
These are different from the street sweepers. This one picks it up.
okay. I'm excited. I've got a piece of ramp that could be, they come over.
We're going to go there first.
Okay, Mr. Chairman,
Oh,
I move that we approve the purchase of the air sweeper from Timco through the state purchase agreement for the Roswell Air Center. And in the amount of, if a 24 model is available, for $314,255. If not, the 25 model for $327,755, as well as the purchase order be placed on the consent agenda.
okay. Any further comments?
Replace it in 3 years.
Huh?
Replace it in 3 years.
Well,
Just because all the moving parts that we have, after 3 years, they're major things.
no, I got it. I understand. I got some of those moving parts.
Rather than just like a street sweeper, but
Well, street sweeper, same thing, because you got a lot of moving.
a lot of moving parts.
Yeah.
Just throwing that out there for the peanut gallery.
Current one we have is 2007. It's still below.
Maybe they won't wear it out. Maybe they
It probably won't get utilized as often.
Not every day.
Yeah. That's a different deal.
Yep. Okay. So you got to move.
I just made the motion.
So I seconded it.
And
And
place it on the consent agenda.
bless you. Any opposition? Passes 2-0. We're trying to keep
I
you,
can put it on the regular agenda if you want.
I don't care. Let somebody else work.
It could have been at this meeting if they're concerned about it.
That's what one of our fellow councilors said, right? Who shall remain nameless.
I'm
Okay.
repeating what I was.
Safe streets. I guess that's why Mr. Nahar's here.
That's why I'm here,
Well, let's go.
chairman and committee. Safe Streets for All, SS4A is what we call it, the acronym. The main question is, what is Safe Streets for All? It's bipartisan money. People don't realize we've had 19 deaths in the traffic-related deaths in the past 4 years. As part of the bipartisan money, they said we can help with safety projects, but you gotta have a plan. They did provide funding to do a plan. That's what we did. We did an RFP. You have a sister item, the agenda, where we're awarded to Freese Nichols. They're a national firm. They were selected for 2 reasons. On the technical part, they can do it in 6 months. Which is why we're here for the budget adjustment. Our grant, we have to have it done by December 31st, 2024. If we get it done in 6 months, that's great. Plus it also gives us an opportunity to start asking for money for the action part, which is the implementation of whatever priorities they are. So change the slide. One of the things that's different with this bipartisan money and and I just want to plant the seed now. There has to be a steering committee that's going to help pick the selection and prioritization of the project. It's not just going to be an engineering decision. That's part of the bipartisan. So what we're going to do, we're going to reach out to these suggested list. We may modify it a little bit. And then hopefully in December, well, hopefully in November, infrastructure and the December council, we'll be coming back to city council for you all to ratify the steering committee. But we'll have the numbers and then all that stuff the engineers will do, but then the steering committee will also help pick the priority. But you can see public works, traffic, police, the city council, appointee or volunteer, chamber similar to business, school district, regional males will probably reach out to Loveless. Equity. One of the things too, equity, we have to have some of these meetings and stuff in other parts of town other than the convention center. So I'm thinking the Boys and Girls Club, since we own the building, it's on the east side. And then another advocacy, I'm thinking reaching out to the Spring River pedestrian corridor. They're active, the foundation, they have money, they're active and stuff, so reach out to them. But that's a little something different that we don't normally do. So then council would ratify the steering committee, and we'll have to do that every 2 years as long as we're getting money from the feds. So what this budget agreement is now that you have in front of you, we're putting for, it's 500,000 and change for the consultant. We want to do 450 out of this agenda, this budget. And then another 100,000 for next year. What that does to me is it's an 80-20 match, so I have to find $20,000. And if y'all remember, I keep using the low, collector mill and fill that I keep robbing from. So I'll be taking 20,000 out of that to cover this.
That's 1.5.
That was 1.5. That's the third time I'm robbing.
5 now, yeah.
I'm keeping track of my beans over there. The ladies are helping me. But that's what you have before you now. Just due to the timing, the way this is coming out, this is a separate budget agreement, budget amendment other than what the finance people have. And I stand for any questions.
I'm trying to get my hands around what you just said there, Louis.
Okay, if you look at the.
650,000 was the
Yeah, if you
original.
look at the budget.
Your financial consideration, what I'm looking
Yeah, so
at.
if you look at the page 197 of your packet.
Yeah,
This is what I'm doing. The grant was 650, and for fiscal year 25, we had 280 and 70, so 350. So I want 450 for this budget year.
yeah.
So that's 100,000. So it'll be 80,000 from the grant and 20,000 match.
Okay.
So that's what we're doing on that. We're just adjusting those numbers right there. Am I correct, Tony?
I got it. Clear now. Thank you.
Nominate you to be the counselor on this deal. You need more to do.
Yeah.
You're retired now. We need to get you involved.
Sure.
Congratulations.
So then I'm not gonna make this motion.
I'm not gonna make a part of the motion.
Oh, okay. 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 Mr. Chairman, I move that we have a budget amendment to split the $650,000 of City of Roswell Safe Streets for All comprehensive grants between fiscal year 24 for 450,000 and fiscal year 25 for 200,000. I'm gonna help you out here, Louis. I'm gonna place it on the consent agenda.
Thank you. Really appreciate it.
You done?
I'm done.
Second? Any further discussion? Any negative votes? Hearing none, passes 2-0.
Thank you.
Approval
Thank
minutes.
you, Louis.
Yeah, we're gonna try, we may not tell you up front, but we're gonna try to take care of
I just got a sidewalk. Any news on when you're going to be possibly leaving?
She was in Dallas yesterday. The donor got sick.
Gotta wait. Gotta wait. I'm sorry to hear that.
Bad news this week. We persevere.
it. Minutes.
I looked at the minutes, I think we're okay.
Okay.
So, Mr. Chairman, we make a motion to approve the minutes of the October 5th, 2023 regular meeting minutes.
Second. Any discussion? Hearing none. Any negative votes? Passes 2-0. Now, we're to information reports.
We'll start with gross receipts tax for October. We received 4,187,623, which is a positive variance of 813,000 more than what was budgeted. So currently we're $2.1 million over budget and 15.87%. The next slide. That's it graphed for you with the 3-year actuals and then the GRT versus budget. What's in your packet? The graphs didn't update, so your packet is missing the October number. These are correct.
Yeah.
Next, for cannabis, we received 22,491, a variance of 4,383. Because we didn't have a budget for July in the budget, we're at 81.21% above budget, and there's that graphed.
When are we going to discuss what we're going to do with this little dribble of revenue?
About $200,000 is what it's about.
Yeah.
Looks like that's what we're going to receive on an annual basis.
We're going to start that discussion during our March budget cycle.
Well, yeah, because currently, when we did budget, we did not budget it in its own fund. And then we were told we had to have it in its own fund, so it's got its own fund now, which puts a little bit of a snag in being able to just use it, because it would require a budget authority or adjustment to move it out to use it in general fund or another fund.
So it's got the previous year's money sitting in that fund.
Yes.
Plus current year, so there's $140,000, $150,000 sitting there right now.
Should be more than.
I think it's more than that, Counselor.
Well, I'm looking-
200,000.
Well, 200,000 from the previous year, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I stopped short at that. So we got 200, almost 300,000 sitting in that fund right now. And we could tack on another 100, so
At least.
at least in that area. So there'd be $300,000-$400,000 sitting in that fund by the end of the fiscal year.
Right. And we were notified that there are no restrictions for it
None.
now, so.
Yeah, there had been, and then that kind of disappeared from the rules. So.
Right, okay.
And unlike other funds like lodger's tax and vet fee, there's no requirement that it be spent.
It's not restricted.
Correct.
We qualify.
That might be replenish your road fund.
There you go.
Might place one of those street sweepers that you're breaking because they got too many moving parts.
We can order it now, get it in 2 years.
It's a 2-year lead, isn't it?
Or we leave it where it's sitting and let finance use that to fill in when everybody comes with their handout.
Well, and
When does that stop?
I don't know, I'm not sure 400,000 is going to cover it.
Deck mowers at the golf course, there's no shortage of things.
No, I mean, there's $400,000 would go very quick. It will go very far, go quick. Yeah, yeah. Any one department.
that's why I call it a dribble.
Yeah.
But it was going to save us from the oil and gas revenue, right? Wasn't that what somebody said up in Santa Fe?
Yeah. Once did it.
I'm waiting for the windfall.
You say a lot of things up
How
there.
about a breeze fall? It's not gonna be a wind fall, it's a breeze.
You have to call it a breeze?
That's all it is a breeze.
It's barely a breath of air.
It's not a big revenue generator.
No.
We thought we were gonna get, so.
They thought, I didn't ever think we were going to get any, that's just my personal opinion. It's fallen in pretty close to what I had originally thought. Oh, he's got his calculator out.
Yeah, I just want to take a look at the GRTs through October. Not let everybody be misled, I think misled that we're going to be 15% over what we projected. Because last year we came in at 45 million for the whole year. And I don't recall we had much of a budget surplus. Do you? It took 45 million in GRT to run the city.
Yep,
There wasn't anything left.
no,
Right.
There was no big increase in cash balances.
No.
no.
So I don't want people to look at this and go, oh, you got a lot of money spent.
Well, and,
It's not true. Or at least last year, it didn't true.
Right.
We came in at 30, what we come in, what was the budget amount? 40 million, 30,
38 last year.
38. And we got 7 million more and there was no budget in. There was no big cash balance increase.
Well, and that's not to step on Chad's toes on his finance report or anything, but, you know, I ran the first quarter financial statements and you look at general fund and you think you've got $2.1 million more in general fund than what you even budgeted. Yet revenue for general fund was 8 million, expenses were 12. So we were $4 million in the hole, including that $2 million there.
Right.
So without that 2 million, you're looking at being 6 million in the hole. It's not there.
And that's what gets people misled because they only want to look at this number right here.
Right.
They don't want to look at the whole picture of where this city really sits in its finances. And so.
And everywhere, when you have a shortage in another fund where you're expecting to pull from is general fund. Well, at a point, we don't have it. And that's, I can't tell you how many times the three of us have said, and we've talked about where we're going to find some of this going into the end of this year or next year.
Right. Well, I'm concerned right now, Mr. Chairman. I'm just going to tell you, 10 years ago, the personnel expense for this city was budgeted at $34 million. Current year budget, 49, somewhere in there, $50 million. That's a 46% increase in personnel expense. And I guarantee, didn't go back and look at the GRTs, but I don't think it went up 46%. So all I'm saying is that's an issue. And maybe that's why our balances have kept being decreased. I know that's an unpopular statement for some folks, but it is the true statement.
Well, and to go from budgets like what they were doing, where they were spending and spending and spending, and to try to pull it back this year, there was no way to make it a balanced budget.
Right.
Because there's just too much started out there, too many personnel, you know, all of that stuff added together that we couldn't even get it back to even being a balanced budget.
Right.
So it's a positive ending cash budget is what we ended up with. And is it realistic? Probably not.
And we got a gift in that budget. We got $7 million that we consumed out of the COVID funds. There's only 3 million sitting left. So you imagine if we didn't get that 7 million consumed, where we would be.
Right.
It would be a disaster. Yeah, and so, you know, I'm bringing this up because there may be time to have to look at a mid-year budget adjustments.
Big swing.
Yep.
Well,
And I'm not saying they're going to get adjusted, but it's got to be looked at, in my opinion. Because when people look at this, oh, you're running 15% over what you had. Whoa, time out. Look at the whole thing, because we got pounded with that at the last council meeting. Oh, your gross receipts are up. Well, geez. And then we increased our gross receipts coming January. But guess what? We can't use any of that money for the general fund.
no,
That's all going to go.
And you're not going to see it until March anyway. And by then we're
And
too
we still
late.
can't even use it even
Right.
when it comes around.
we won't.
Because the council limited the utilization of those funds.
Yep. And we're gonna
And I'm like going, and which I did not support,
I didn't either.
and you didn't support it either. But I guess my 40 years of experience in finance don't mean anything.
None.
Yeah. That. And I'm speaking to the choir, I think, to a lot of people in this room, and which I don't mean to go off on a tangent, but what I don't want people to say is, look, you've got 15%. Because some people on the council said that. You got more money. We're not broke. We just need to be fiscal conservatives and operate in what we have. That's where we're at. Broke means you can't pay your bill. We can pay our bills. You just can't pay more bills.
But we have to manage it very cautiously
Yeah.
in terms of our cash balance and those reimbursable grants. And if we had a hefty cash balance, a solid cash balance, that wouldn't be the case. Meaning we wouldn't have to worry about, can we bring on another reimbursement basis project grant, and how much is it? And how fast could we move through it with progress payments?
That's exactly correct.
We are a little bit hamstrung.
And
And we
if,
can't go out and get that stuff.
and if we're going to look at a budget mid-year, then I think we need to look at the capital projects, because we, sitting here and knowing the budget authority that departments have, and whether that revenue comes in this year or next year, my main concern, and I know Chad's heard me say it several times, is ending the year and ending in red and not having the money to cover it, because we've started stuff. Lewis and I've had this conversation. We start stuff in April and May, but we don't get reimbursed until August. I can't have it flow over year end like that. Our cash flow is a big concern.
Well, I agree with you, because what I see has happened is when we started the new budget year, what did we get? A bunch of purchases, boom.
Yeah.
Right in the beginning. We got to have that stuff now. Well, no, we had a new budget, so let's spend it now. That's what that was about in some cases. And so that put a strain on your cash, because this is a 12-month cycle. And when you got hit right up front with all those purchases that we approved, we approved them, but it put a drain on your cash.
Right.
So, and it's a shame that the cash balance isn't large enough, because we're going to miss out on grants, reimbursables.
And normally when you've got,
And that's the other thing people don't understand. And I think that's going to be a strong statement that probably needs to be made. Council meeting. But people understand this. Because obviously 8 of the councilors don't, or 7. I guess there's 7 more.
Yeah. I don't understand it. Well, grants are not free.
No, they're reimbursable, but you got to have the cash to do it.
That's right. And the cost of money for that period of time. And then after you get the project finished, however long it takes. Some of them they get back here in a short period of time.
couple months,
Some of them it
Years.
takes forever.
Yes.
And
disaster
so,
relief, several years.
Yep.
75% reimbursement, several years to get those.
Yeah.
so.
And Lewis had one that will pay up front, so we like those.
Yeah.
Let's take the match up front.
So,
No, I was, yeah.
And when you're managing like that, then you're out whatever percentage the match is.
That's right.
Yeah.
Either in the front or the back end, doesn't matter. You're going to be out that money. So you got to watch it. I had a conversation with the former city councilor, and he was suggesting that we're 1587 above in our gross receipts tax. And I said, yeah, but that's not the whole picture.
Oh,
You need to come in and sit down with me, and I'll go over what parts that I understand, because there's a lot more about this thing I've got to still get my arms around.
well, and it's 15.87% over budget. Budgets are budgets. Your actuals are what matter. And that's what people need
which
to
is
be
why last
looking
year
at.
is a good example of that.
Right.
You know, even though we had $7 million in revenue over our budgeted amount, we had that much in expenditures.
Yeah, we blew it.
And it wasn't just funny money thrown into things. Lewis could have taken a lot more of it. You didn't get a lot more last year, even though the revenues were up.
I've been running the same.
Yep. So
That's
that's,
going to be requesting the same for next year.
I hope you request more.
And the basic minimum that has been recommended through the street study was 6 million per year.
The minimum, yes.
That's the minimum. We're doing 1.5,
Right.
just so everybody understands.
But you say that's a 40, how many years out are we? And you said in the infrastructure you talked
So we're
about.
probably a year and a half out of 5.
Yeah, we're in bad shape there. I suggest sharpening the pencil for next year and see what happens. Put a little more in there.
Well, I know.
All we can do is say no.
Yeah, streets is general fund, so what you give me, you have to take from my other brother and sister departments.
Well,
The beauty of it is you've got a priority list with dollars. So we can kind of, some years you may want to go heavier, some years you may
right,
back it off a little bit.
right. But it's just my recommendation.
No, I hear you, and I appreciate it, and I'll shed some light on how we're gonna do the infrastructure presentation again on my priority list. I got $165 million worth of projects.
Right.
I know I won't get those, but I'm gonna show you how we're thinking into the future, how we picked the street that we did on the residential, and show you there is logic to all we do.
And some of those, Louis, we discovered have disaster relief funds attached to some of those projects as well that reimburses 75%, which that's,
That helps.
yeah, that helps.
Yep.
Well, a lot of his stuff has got reimbursables tied to it. And Lewis works hard getting DOT grants and, I mean, it's a real balance.
Yeah, you just have to be patient. They'll tell you no this year and keep on asking until they tell you yes.
Okay. All right. Can we move
Just-
on now?
Yeah, we can move on. I just wanted people to understand, bring it to light. I don't want,
Oh, I agree that there is a
we
lot of.
just don't run around and think that we got a bunch more.
There are a bunch of people out there that have not an idea.
They have the misnomer of only seeing a portion of the picture, and they believe that's the whole picture. And that's not, that's why I wanted to bring this to light.
Well, the thing is, I make a lot of presentations for a living. Why not have a graph that shows total expenditures on the general and projected, so.
Just to kind of show this.
Yeah, I mean, you're showing the income.
Yeah,
Now
and
show-
where the expenses are really going to be, based upon where we're at right now.
Great idea, and I'm thinking the same thing, by the way.
Yeah.
It really ought to be a graph over time to show the trend.
Yep.
Both the expenditure side and the revenue side.
Yeah.
I already know what that one's gonna look like.
Thanks.
But I mean, it is, helps like what happened on the past couple of months with the blue collar. I understand them and I appreciate them because some of those employees are mine, but
Right.
not everybody understands all the facts.
No. Right. And
Some are more convenient than others.
I get it, but I think they will understand the facts when you show all the facts.
The expense side too.
Yeah.
It's a suggestion.
Yeah. So I do have a question for you, Ms. Davis. Do we have our excess funds sitting in some kind of money market?
We've got investments, and part of the investments are sitting in the money market. But right now we have quite a bit of money sitting in Pioneer Bank. And the interest is almost nothing on.
I know, and I would concern myself if we could find another avenue to,
Can we not tier those in a CD with Pioneer?
but they don't pay anything. I mean,
Yeah.
Pioneer Bank pays you nothing.
We got to watch their
And local
CDs.
banks.
Sometimes their CDs do.
Yeah.
And they change.
Right.
Well, but we've got CDs with Morton Capital, and we've got 25 million in CDs with Morton Capital. But they've got a money market that's running right now at 5.5%.
That's huge.
That we could pull out tomorrow if we needed to. It's just moving it from Pioneer and getting it into Morton. Pioneer won't look at increasing our rate because we're not on contract with them right now. I'm looking at doing another RFP,
Right.
but I've been working on 2 audits instead. So
I get it. But, and I don't know how much those balances are, but if you can move those from, if you're in the money market, you're probably getting less than 0.5%.
way less.
And, if you got $10 million sitting there that you could push around, at 5% increase.
Yep.
500K.
They
Yeah.
moved
That would-
the wheels with-
That's a big number.
Mhm.
I mean, you take 5% of a million is 50K, 5,000, so you're 50,000. So talk that on top of the cannabis money. So I just found $500,000 for you.
Cool. Can I keep it or do I have to spend it?
Well,
Yeah.
It can go
Crystal,
it can go somewhere.
Yeah.
You know, and so especially when some of these loans we've got, we're only paying a quarter of a point. The spread between what we're paying and what we're getting would go a long way. So
Helps a lot.
Through the first quarter, we're at 18 million. That's 18 million.
18 million citizens. So, yeah, you could easily move. I don't know what your average float is, but yeah, I bet you could move $10 million and not worry.
Easy. I think so too.
You know, so that's just one of the tricks I used to do out there. So.
Okay, what's next?
You want to read comments?
Oh,
COLA pay increases was a bill that the city is unable to pay. I'm not sure I understand that question, or is that just a statement?
well, I think it's a statement. And he says December step increase is also a bill, which is true. It's cash out,
But it's not in here,
but it's not in there. So,
Right.
right?
okay. Appreciate it, Bruce. All right, let's go back. What's next?
Rogers tax.
Okay.
That's right.
Mr. Chair, members of the committee, I'm here to report for our September collections for August activity. Let's go to the next slide. One of the things that we added to your report, they are the hotels that are not reporting at the bottom. So we did have 3 hotels again this month that did not report. A letter did go out to them. One indicated that a check was sent, but never received. We did not find the check, but it did show that it was deposited, and our person is working on trying to figure out where it was. We've implemented a Dropbox at our new office for them, and the front office has implemented us to sign for it once it's received here. Our STAR data shows that we had about a 3% occupancy year over year, and August had almost a 10% growth from 2022. The average daily rate was up about 3% from last year. So for the next slide, if you go to I think it's the lodger's tax of 5%, did 92,711. And then if you go to, that was about 46% occupancy. If you go to the next slide, for the bed fee, $2, we collected $49,567. And I'll stand for any questions.
Sounds good.
Mr. Chairman, may I make a comment? Go back up the slide, please. On the hotels. If memory serves me correct, those 3 hotels are the same mother corporate.
Really?
Yes. They're also the
Yes.
same, they're also the same mother corporate that started an RV park that stalled out already, construction did.
We went out. You know, to me, it's real simple. They can tell you whether that check cashed or not. They can find out online right now. So,
Well, and we can find that too. If you can give me a dollar amount, we can look and see where it was deposited, what account.
yeah. Thank you for that information, Louis. I think it's interesting that those all 3 are connected and all 3 of them haven't paid and say they have
Those
paid.
3 plus the development they started, the big press release.
They haven't done anything out there, have they? I
Uh,
know there's a line,
That's what we put in,
you put that line in out there,
yeah.
but they haven't moved it.
They started and then they stopped. They fired their subcontractor. That's what happened.
Wow. Okay. Any more comments?
Mr. Chairman, I have a question for Ms. Jennings and as far as grocery receipts tax. Because, you know, a lot of times we have really big events that happen here in Roswell. And so the hike and spike has been gotten out for 3 years, 4 years, since 2020. What kind of loss have we seen? Can you show that not having that event, our loss of GRT and lodging tax?
I don't know if I can show it on GRT. For lodger's tax, we would get our report. We actually didn't see a significant loss because it happens to be the same weekend as graduation. So it's kind of remained flat, but I'm happy to bring that report and present it.
Mr. Chair, Mr. Gavin, there's a little bit of a distortion there. So we've got Glory Days and they've been operating, my understanding, the last 2 years. And so, but rebuilding coming out of COVID. But that is graduation weekend as well.
Yeah.
The Institute found that out real quick when they tried to hold it on the same weekend. 1 year. They could do that again.
You should see an increase in October. You believe the number of people that came into this community for the eclipse?
There was a huge.
Unbelievable.
Huge increase in October. And we felt it. We felt it at the visitor center. I know the hotels felt it, even at the Art and Science Festival. I mean, there was a lot of people here for the eclipse. And so we were really happy. I wish we could have an eclipse every year. Because that would be really great.
There were people from all over the world
Yeah.
that showed up in Roswell to watch the eclipse.
There'll be another, we're not in the trajectory, but like in March, there's gonna be like a lunar one. We were hoping we'd be in that path because it was a really successful weekend.
It was big.
So, yeah.
So Jim, to that question about the hiking and spiking, we have a model for it. Jim Tucci and Clay Avery did a great job with that, so we have that model. There's a way for us to.
Okay.
Either answer, go ahead.
There's another organization called Glory Days. It's a 4-on-4-5 football. So they kind of have taken, I wouldn't say taken over, but they are revising that event that weekend. So it's not called Hike It and Spike It anymore. It's called Glory Days, but it's a very similar concept that they've been doing. The first year, they kind of did it like Mr. Cole said, second year, it's getting bigger. I think it's going to grow as the Hike It and Spike It one did.
It would be good.
And the beauty of it is you've got some young people that are spearheading this thing and really have put their blood, sweat, and tears because they're passionate about it. They're also a pretty sharp bunch, and I think they're really headed towards growth.
And I would hope that there's some time for Jim and Clay.
I think Brandon Williams.
Okay.
From Credit Bureau. I'm impressed with what he's done.
Good stuff. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Mr. Cole, you're up.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, members of the committee. You have in front of you here fiscal year 23-24 first quarter revenues and expenditure activity for all funds. I want to thank our finance and treasury team, Ms. Janie Davies, Tammy, and particularly Tony. She spent most of Saturday and Sunday down here. If you're wondering whose vehicle and light is on late nights down here, most nights, that's Tony. And we're very lucky to have both her and Tammy join the team and just thank them. So our DFA report was due October 31st. Our numbers here, they've been doing journal entries and adjustments and scrambling this past week with me and Mr. Korn breathing down their neck a little bit.
Not me.
Yeah.
What you've got in front of you here is just the first quarter of this current fiscal year. And really what I'm trying to do is get rid of some of the white noise. Let's boil this thing down. What is important in terms of any entity, business, city, whatever, school district? It's the structure of your recurring cost to your recurring revenues. And if you match those up every year, you're never going to have a problem. And you'll build a cash balance that you can rely on and not have to worry about managing so tightly that you can't quite do all the reimbursement grants you want. So what you see there are our operating fund, our general operating fund, $9 million, $9 million, $41,454.15 of first quarter revenues. Transfers out of that of $348,500. If you look just below in that column for transfers, you see where that's going. That's our bond debt service. So those GRTs aren't don't get to just stay in one place. We've got to cover our bond debt. And we've been talking recently about the extent of the city's bond debt in recent years. I think if you go back before 2017, I think it was right around $23 million. About a year or so ago, it was right around $91 million. We're at $81 million in bond debt that we're going to be paying on for a long time. So that's another drag on our GRT and our operating funds. You can see there, I've highlighted a couple of things: the Law Enforcement Protection Direct Grants, the American Rescue Plan Act direct grants. We're not showing revenues because those were received direct when we received the grants themselves. You can see that GRT revenue for bond debt service portion. Janie, does that come out every quarter? Do we pull every quarter for that debt service?
We'll do transfers every, yes.
So this was the first quarter. And then you see in the yellow, I wanted to highlight that specifically, our enterprise funds. That's where most of our blue collar are paid from, blue collar folks. You can see that we generated in total, all funds, $26,790,340.16 versus expenditures of $26,848,927.68. That's not including transfers out for things like bonds or adjustments to the adjustment, quarterly adjustments in closing the books each quarter. And you can see that our balance after revenues, transfers, expenditures, adjustments, again, in total, is a loss for the first quarter activity of $7,776,977.83. Again, we need to focus in on those enterprise funds because that's where it's at. If you don't have a city, if you don't have water, you don't have a city. If you don't have sanitation, you don't have a city. There are some things we certainly need to focus on as a city. Streets, another big one. Streets and roads. I put some definitions down here, what I want to drive home, and we'll certainly expand and elaborate on this when we go to full council. But really what I just want to do is boil this down to the essence. If your revenues are not covering your expenditures and you're not matched up on the structure, then you're eating to your cash balance. If they've been doing that for years and years, your cash balance has dwindled down. You've got a problem. We get into the food for thought questions. The answer to those questions really is it's not sustainable where we're at. This is not a sustainable way to do it. We need to match our recurring costs to our recurring revenues. That has to happen every year. We ought to be looking at it every quarter. But we haven't done this exercise, as far as I could tell, in years. And that was one of the things that was most shocking to me, other than the surprises. And we could have listed the most recent 10% increase to medical that we know that's going to come in January. I think it was a $1.4 million increase to our recurring costs. Is that right?
Yeah, for a year.
Starting in January. Yeah, for a year.
This year, we're looking at a little over 600,000.
Half a year. Yeah.
For a half a year.
Again, that's recurring costs, those costs that don't go away. They're anticipated, kind of like your utility costs, those types of things. So the main thing for me is we've got to get the structure right. We get the structure right, we match those two up. That's going to take us a few years, given where we're at with our debt load. We'll bring some more things to council in terms of all these odd ducks that we've seen. The $2 million settlement to TSA, surprise, the $1.45 million increase the last minute to last year's insurance that we put in budget, the new 1.4 million to this year's and going. health insurance costs. There have been lots of surprises along the way, but really I want to get into the structure of this thing because that's what really counts. It's all this other stuff is smoke and mirrors. Yeah, did we under budget GRT? Well, we don't know, but is it a better practice to under budget your revenue to bring expense in line? Typically, yes, especially if you're in this position as a city, and it's not a question in my mind, and I've been doing this for 20 years. We've got a structural problem on our recurring costs versus our recurring revenue. And yes, I would agree. I think recurring revenue is going to be up more this year, percentage wise. But the problem is our expenditures are up more than our recurring revenues, even on an actual basis for the quarter, as we can see here. So again, that doesn't happen overnight or without some work involved, and we'll bring some more things to the council. We'll look at what has happened with wage increases to the city. And I would thank Mr. Itema and Ms. Davies for putting some information together in terms of what has been the step increase, what has been the percentage COLA increase. Now, bear in mind, you add those two things together and you got a percentage increase across the board on your wages, but you've also got a percentage, what attaches to wages, all those benefits. They're a percentage of wages. Wages go up by a percentage, they go up. So there's the added cost of benefits. Again, those are recurring costs as well. That's the problem. We've outstripped our recurring revenues by our recurring costs. We've built this recurring cost structure primarily in the salaries and benefits, which is where most of your recurring costs lie. And we've done this over almost a decade's time. And if we're going to fix it, we got to fix it now. There's a question down there, is cash balance a finite or recurring source of entity funds? I'll just answer it. It's finite. Once you spend it, it's gone. You don't get it back until you structure your revenues to outstrip your expenditures. I stand for questions.
So, and the other thing that's going on that we have no control over is this cost spiral that we're seeing for buying the equipment it takes to keep things together. Louis, what's the price difference in a stretch of streets today versus what it was 2-3 years ago?
About 5%.
Okay, and we've all heard water department's not here, where a valve used to cost $75 is now $275. A joint of 20-foot 8-inch PVC pipe used to cost $200. Now it's costing $1,000. And that further, we're not budgeting to take care of this inflationary costs that we're seeing. And that just makes it worse.
We beat the feds, which is another large employer entity. We beat the feds in the percentage amount of raises that we've given over the last several years. That's saying something. The feds are pretty generous. They do have a privilege. So the city of Roswell has outpaced the feds in the percentage raises it's given over the last 5 years, certainly. And that has contributed to these recurring costs and structure of this thing. And I'll just go back to it. Really, you're limited to two things. And we're actively trying to attack this as we speak from both sides. Either trim back your recurring costs, typically involves doing something with your wages because that's the bulk of them, or you increase your recurring revenues. And that involves having studies done consistently, and maybe not every year, but certainly every other year, so that you're not trying to create a profit, you're trying to cover your costs, period. And we haven't done that again in decades.
Well, we started the water study. We're working on the trash study also.
We have it put together. We have some issues with Robert's model.
Okay, so we're starting to work on that side.
Yes, we're actively.
And then the
working.
council will decide if it's gonna step up to the plate or not.
So I think we're doing all the things that we should be doing. The monitoring is certainly going on. I appreciate that governing authority.
Well, the biggest shock here is I was thinking maybe these red figures are maybe gonna be $4 or $5 million and it's almost 8. So my crystal ball is once again cracked and cloudy.
I'll just remind Mr. Chair, the full governing council, I think, led by Mr. Perry at the time, did insist that we review the first quarter activity, and that's what you have here in front of you. And you can see the results was a net loss of $7.7 million.
You know, I happened to figure that you spent a lot of time on this presentation after the finance team gave you the figures.
They gave me some figures. It really didn't, it doesn't take a whole lot of time. I went through everything. But again, I want to cut out the white noise. I want to boil this down in my mind. And again, it's tried, true, proven. If you match your recurring costs to your recurring revenue, and there's some estimating and projecting involved. But if you work that consistently year over year, you won't ever put yourself in a bad situation where you've got to do a reduction in force or anything drastic. But where we're at now is not a good place. And that's the truth.
I concur.
Well, Mr. Chairman,
Go ahead.
Mr. Cole, this is great work because it just says right here that the general operating fund is not sustainable. This just not.
On a first quarter basis, for sure.
And if we keep going like this, we won't have to worry about it. The state will come in and take over.
They will.
And so it's get our hands on it, which I believe that's what I hear you're saying. I agree with you. We don't have much ability to raise our revenues.
Right.
They are what they are when they come in the door.
It's very limited.
The only thing that we have control over in any magnitude are the expense side of the equation.
Absolutely.
We can control or attempt to control that expense side. But I agree with you, and I didn't know if you were going to talk about some of these things that you talked about when I made my statement about where our wage increase or personnel costs have gone up 46% over a 10-year time. Way outstrips inflation.
Yes, sir.
And so that, I hate to be always bring the bad news to the table, but it is the news. And that's what you're saying here. This might be bad news, but it is the news.
And if you can't name it, you can't identify it, you can't fix it.
Exactly correct. Exactly correct. And so, so we've had a decrease in our general operating fund in the cash balance of $7.3 million.
Yes, sir.
First quarter.
First quarter.
We don't know how much of that. I'm sure we could go out and try to figure, but that's a lot of work for what? I don't know how much of that's going to be reimbursables, but I'm not sure that how much of that's reimbursables coming back. It's just a timing issue.
It's 7
It's not going to be 7.3.
Yeah. Which is the bulk. Yeah.
Yeah. And so this is really very concerning. That's a big number. And we got
Times 4.
right.
And I'll, Mr. Chair, members of the committee, I'll just, as best I can see, and I've lived here all my life. Larry Fry, a former city manager, successfully built a tremendous cash balance with the city of Rossville. After he left, the budget that we've seen budgets more in expenditures than revenue on a consistent basis for the last 9 years.
Right.
We've been dipping into that cash balance and dipping into that cash balance, and the party's over.
Yeah. Well, the state said that.
Yeah.
In their last correspondence to us.
Yes, sir.
And we've done that, 3 years in a row, at least?
No,
It's been, but the straight 3 years in a row, there was a gap in the number.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so this has continued to go on. And we do have a reserve, but is it really a reserve when you've got this going on?
It's gone if you just cash out.
Well, we can also look at these first quarter balances. Well, we could look at certainly the first quarter. We could look at a quarter by quarter expenditures versus those reserve amounts and see how many months we could go if suddenly we didn't have it. I don't think there'd be any of them over 2 months.
Yeah.
I don't think we could make it. I don't think we'd make it more than 2 months.
Nope.
So
if we had no more revenue, it'd be over with.
At the school district, I never allowed it to get lower than 6 months.
Yeah, I believe that.
Just saying.
I think you're being
And that was,
very optimistic. I'm not sure we could do 30 days.
in some cases.
My crystal ball that's cracked and cloudy.
Now, anyway, no matter whether it's 30 or 60, it's in bad shape.
Oh, we're,
It doesn't.
Well, and when you're talking about the 1/12 reserve that DFA requires or the 3/12 that the city currently does, it's just on general fund. It's not on all funds. So the 3/12 is just
It's
general fund.
That's
Yeah,
right.
it's not all funds.
It's not the water, it's not sanitation.
And they all look red to me.
Well, the one that really bothersome to me is the airport.
Yes.
That's really bothersome to me. 1.3 and their revenue stream is decreasing, if I recall. If we were to look at the financial statement for them and compare it to the previous year, I would venture to say that it's probably decreased.
And I would think that with the lawsuit and all of that, we're looking at expending more than what we're going to get in this year.
Yeah.
And Mr. Chair, committee member, I'd just say, again, I can't remember a year, Roswell, where we didn't have some kind of minor disaster, whether it's water lines, you name it, fines, settlements, things of that nature. If you don't, you ought to be managing your budget where it's sustainable and you've got a cash balance to cover those things. We shouldn't be having to go out for loans to try and redo some water tanks. We ought to be able to cover that in our cash balance and not sleep like a baby. We ought to be able to do that. We're not there yet.
well, if I understand the presentation correctly that we got from our bond advisor, when that goes on and
2025.
and the Rasher Road flood deal,
Yes, sir.
our ratio is going to be 1.04. And that's
Below the minimum standard.
it's a very dangerous area.
It also drives down your bond rating, which drives up your interest cost.
Yep.
Yeah, and drives you out of the market for certain grants.
Yep.
As well.
Crazy.
How it works.
That's how it works.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, thanks for that feel-good moment.
You know, I'm glad it's not only me because Counselor Corn comes in and he says, are you ever going to give me good news? And I said, that's not my style.
Well, Matthew was giving away free puppies the other day.
Yeah,
Well,
they all got it.
and after looking at this.
Don't tell my
there should not
wife.
be any question in anybody's mind why the state auditor is down here.
Exactly. Exactly.
I
We've
mean,
got to right the ship. It's,
well, I'm anxious to get their report so we can address it. And I mean, I think you're right. You have to look at it and say, oh, we got a serious problem. And then you got to map a plan how you're going to deal with the problem. And I think we're probably on that side of the ledger now, where we don't have a workable, sustainable model to use, but we're thinking about it.
all these things take time. What we've been bringing to our administrators and directors in the administrative meetings is paying our bills on time, making sure we're doing proper POs, all of those types of things, managing our costs. I will tell you that if you can't trust the management with the PO system and the P card system, meaning I built a management team over at the school district that I trusted implicitly. And I knew that on the front end of the year, they were going to do a lot of POs right out the gate, and that just saved them a bunch of work on the back end. But I didn't have anyone that did a bunch of POs on the front end of the year so that they could run themselves out of money by half year and then come back and say they're out of money. I've seen that here at the city. We've got to stop that nonsense right now.
I agree. I agree. Well, thank you for bringing more light to this problem that I've been hollering about
Yes,
for a while, because the first year I sat in this chair, couldn't get a straight answer from the finance people or the administration. You remember that?
And it takes a minute to build a team, but I'll tell you what, that team is going to be rock solid by next year.
Yeah. You tell them they can't leave till it's okey dokey by me.
I'm begging them, please. Don't leave.
I'll try to get the desk. They'll all be here at night.
But they're an outstanding group. They really are.
Yeah,
I agree with you.
I'm excited that they're here and they're working through. Takes a while when you first bring people on to figure out the ebb and flow of the organization you're working for. Doesn't matter, you be a car dealer and you go to the Ford from the Chevy house, it's different.
Yeah.
Besides the name brand. And that's just the way business is and government is, everything is. But we got one came from the county, and I know that she's had lots of questions. So,
Which is good.
yeah, oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I've never known her to be bashful. Worked with her in the past. I was excited. Don't tell her that.
Okay, I won't.
Excited
I
when
won't
she
say
came
words.
in. She's doing great work, and I'm enjoying my association with Tammy. And so
I got the pleasure to hire Tammy at Pioneer Bank back in the day.
oh, so y'all got a history too, huh?
Not much of one, but she's certainly qualified, and I think her husband's an outstanding guy as well. So she surrounds herself with good people. Yes.
Good. Well, we're on the road to recovery. Gonna be a slow slog.
Yes.
Have great faith. Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I just want to make one more statement.
Yes, sir.
Reiterate, getting that money market sweep put together, that's $500,000 a year.
Yep.
So I think that's I know you got lots of things going on, but city manager does it, so maybe he could work.
We will follow up.
No, he sits in his,
That is, if there's $10 million sitting around just because it's in the balance, that you can sweep in, sweep out.
the city manager reads a novel every week. Yeah, he gets so much time on his hands. Okay, let's talk about the water source capital fund project. Who's up for that?
I'm going to talk for Lorenzo. I didn't know it until I looked around and he's not here. At the sheet.
No,
No.
it's just in the packet.
So in your packet, you've got, do we know what
Page
page?
240.
240 is a section of Lorenzo's capital project funds, or capital projects. And in this, he had some project savings from some items that were actually expended last year that he had budget authority on. This is for the VFDs, and he needed an extra about $90,000 for that. So we've reduced his project savings to make, we know which item it is. Number 7. On here, $696,000. So he didn't have quite enough money in that project. We're adding another 90,000, but it's not going to require a budget adjustment. It's coming out of the project savings that he had from some other items. And it was information only, just so you all know what he's spending his money on.
Yeah, a lot of this stuff is stuff that he desperately needed, in my opinion, and we agreed. The lead pipe detection, the pipe puller, the ditch witch, some of that other stuff. You needed it.
Well, and they've got all of, that new equipment in for testing the lead
Right.
stuff.
So it's here? Oh, fantastic.
We're already using it.
Good. Excellent.
That's all I have on that. Really just letting you know what he was doing with his budget authority.
Okay. Well, that's a little bit of good news. We're spending money on stuff that we desperately need.
Well, and I think the extra 90,000, he's getting a new building out of it too for the, whatever the VFDs are. I don't know enough about it to talk about that, but,
The pump house for the VFD.
yeah.
Okay. Well, those things, the way that deal works, you don't get those big surges on your system.
Water hammer out of the way and it lessens the chance of breaks, water line breaks.
Yeah.
Gradually increases the pressure, gradually decreases. That's a variable frequency drive. Slowly get the pressure up, slowly get the pressure down.
I bought one of those. They're not cheap. They work really well.
And I think part of the problem, if I remember correctly, was the amount of power that it needed for the pumps and stuff, and then Excel, we had to do some Excel upgrades. For the customers,
Well, the panels that go with them are not, they're almost as much as the drive unit.
It's expensive technology, but it'll save us a lot on maintenance and operation.
On labor.
Yeah, makes everything just run smooth. Okay. UFO report, Ms. Jennings, you're up.
All right, Mr. Chair, members of the committee, in your packet, just kind of go through it. Our objective for the UFO Festival 23 was to increase tourism, foster the arts, space and science, and the mystery of the Roswell incident of 1947, increase community involvement, pride, and promote the city's brand. On page 2, some of the highlights is the city of Roswell put on 40 of the 30 citywide events for the festival. The economic impact from the ticket sales, the 477 was $1 million. And we're using the economic impact calculator from the state tourism department to pull those numbers. And you'll see that on 6 on how those numbers kind of work out. On page 7, these are the festival hot zones. So these are some of the activities that occurred. We had scavenger hunts, we had live entertainment, there was pet costume contest, people costume contest, the Main Street Parade, UFOologist, alien invasion by the International UFO Museum, the Roswell incident by the Roswell Daily Record, the Night Sky Watch, reenactment tours, Invaders baseball games, alien chase, the Golrack experience, Galacticon and Sci-Fi Film Festival, the Roswell Museum String Quartet concert, Alien Crazy Hair Salon, the Goddard Planetarium light shows and the D-movie series, and then the Battle of the Bands were just some to review.
That's about.
Yeah, it's a lot. Page 8 were some of the events that were planned and coordinated by Public Affairs, which included the Galaxy Fair, Foam Zone, Aerialist, Sea Violet, Folklorico Dancers, Legacy Dance Academy, a Space Parade, the Kids Zone, which included like a moon maze. It was an immersive experience to learn about the moon and space and planets. Yard games and the alien crawl. It was a local restaurant and pub crawl. Basically, it was a destination tour to showcase some of our local restaurants. Friday night was the headliner concert Signo. And Saturday night was the Runaway June concert, which was country. Friday night was a Tejano band, and Saturday night was country. We also included the UFO Walk of Fame at Pioneer Plaza. This year, we recognized Robert H. Goddard. And then there was a new installation of the Love Lock Wall at the Roswell Visitor Center, which allows people to leave a message on the lock. The wall was donated by Home Depot Store 3510, and it just allows locals and visitors to leave a little bit of themselves here in Roswell. The big On page 10 is our community partnerships and benefits to the community. As you can see, there were a lot of different communities, organizations that were involved. And so we kind of just broke out all of the different activities and things for people to do. It was citywide. If you go to page 12, on page 12 again, this was kind of the investment. This was part of our advertising, being up from Boring. We're required to spend 40% of our collections of lodger's tax on advertising. So we used those dollars for promotion of the event. Beam Me Up from Boring was our kind of campaign theme this year. What we did is we used all of our activities that I mentioned from different organizations, and it was Beam Me Up from Boring for the Galacticon, Beam Me Up from Boring, and we changed out the creative. For volunteers on page 13, we had a total of 91 volunteers the week leading up to UFO Festival. Using the independent sector volunteer value of time for New Mexico for 2023, which is $26.95 per hour, the value of the volunteer labor was calculated at $14,721.44. Some of that event statistics, GOLRAC had about 55 in attendance. Alien Chase had 204. The Roswell Museum, the actual museum, had 371. Laser shows had 795. Crazy Hair Salon had 79, a total of 1269 for them. Roswell Lady Record had 198 tickets sold. And then our surveys that we had 402 attendee surveys that were completed. In August, when the QR code was still live, we had 372 that were scanned at that time. The QR code gave them information on where to go, what to do, what to see. The big change in this report is page 15 and 16, and thank you, Tony and Chad, for visiting with me. How we broke it out is on page 15 is just the concert only, with revenue at the top and expenses at the bottom, just concert. Then on page 16 is all event revenue and all event expenses calculated in one sheet. And then we added the donation fund account at the bottom. And then page 17 is the lodger's taxes. So like party, security, janitorial, the advertising we talked about.
So, Mr. Chair, just real quick, we could have broken out each one of those events separate. There's lots of ways to do a profit and loss or an income statement. But I know a focus was for the concert. What was the bottom line of the concert? I know it's not a gotcha game. We just want to see what actually happened with that concert. And then we wanted to see what happened with the other events. I think if you look at the moonwalk on the revenue side versus the expenditure side, that's the only thing that made money. We understand that these things aren't created necessarily to make money, but that is the only event that actually made money was the.
So this 91 loss is not.
The cost to the city after revenues that were generated.
Totally?
Yes, sir.
Well, I've got
There's no employee cost in there.
Well, that's true. That's true.
Okay, well, thank you. That's where I was headed. And it's 14,000 that's shown on 13 for volunteer time.
That's
That's not in there.
but it's no out of pocket to us, so.
Well,
it's not-
I understand,
it's not
but
a
it's
problem.
still, it's
Just want to see hard
People
dollars.
get credit for that,
right.
for, do we have a swap driver? I mean, they get credit for that time,
In kind,
yeah, in-kind
in
stuff.
some cases. And I think to Warren and her team's credit, they did work hard on this
Yeah.
event. And we did, as management, scale it back in terms of city overtime involvement in the events themselves. That is true.
Go ahead.
I do have a question. So the 91,000 was the operating loss,
Yes, sir.
shall I say? But the UFO donations, sponsorships and donations would reduce that number. Would that be a correct statement?
They would. So that's not a true revenue. That's a cash asset, that donation.
So we received actual cash donations?
It was cash that pre-existed prior to the events.
So, okay, and Then all these other items on this back page, porta potty, janitorial, security, those were all reimbursables out of lodger's tax. So that didn't get associated in here. The money for lodger's tax, it's limited where you can use it. So I don't look at that as expense, but I look at it then that we had $91,000 is what the UFO festival costs the city to put on.
On an event basis. What did the event generate? What did it drive in?
Yeah. And I don't,
Without calculating any of our staff time, putting it,
it didn't have that in here.
but it's still an expense.
It is an expense. And it's not, we had that discussion last year when we talked about this thing.
Yep.
Was the staff time that would have been allocated to this to give it a clearer picture of what the real cost is. This is not the real cost. And so, but I'm not judging whether $90,000 is unfairly spent. I think it's a part of the community service, part of quality of life issue. If we spend $100,000 in quality of life, that's not that bad of a deal.
And did we fill up some hotel rooms?
And
Absolutely.
this doesn't include the economic impact that Main Street Roswell received
Correct.
out of what they did as well.
That's correct.
And so, yeah, I would think, just guessing on Main Street Roswell, theirs is going to be a plus because they don't have any staff over there. And I would venture to see that there's going to be a plus. So it's less for the total cost, even though it didn't get into the city funded 100 or 90,000. It's a lot less than that number because Main Street Roswell brought it in.
There's lots of moving parts that we don't have here, but I think this is, it's fair to say this is a fair representation from our part of the budget.
We just wanted to give you the bottom line and be able to see at a glance what we did or didn't do, understanding that it's not a gotcha game. We just need to understand what was actually generated. And you're absolutely right on the employee costs. I'll tell you that as a city going forward, I've heard different things, but that's what we need to consider. How much are we willing for the quality of life, for the attraction to the community, to fill those lodgers? And what is it we want? Do we want to do a fireworks show that's city sponsored? Do we want somebody else to do it? Do we want to do a concert that's city works, but city sponsored? And knowing, there's no way we're going to make money on these things. No way.
No, not going to happen. Ms. James, on page 4.
Yep.
I think if you go back and look at where it says gross receipts tax for the month of July 2023 was 59 million.
I believe so. That is from that GRT spreadsheet.
GRT tax for the month of July was 59 million. I think that's correct.
I would need to ask Tony and Tammy for help with that. 'Cause
I don't know where that number would have come from. I'd ask you to take a look at that.
I think it's probably the total for the area.
For the whole month for Chaves County?
Yeah, well, and
Or do they break it out and tell you what city does?
It's colored.
They do.
so our city portion is what we report.
Right, so this is the gross receipts tax collected for the whole month of July in the city.
Yes,
That's not the city's portion.
right.
That's for the whole.
Yes, that's not the city's portion.
Wow. So they creamed this $50 million, $5 million. We're doing well for the state. We've got to get some state tourism dollars to help support this.
We do.
But I mean, even more.
Yeah.
We brought in, if this number's correct, we brought in $55 million probably in gross receipts tax for the state of New Mexico for this project.
And they kept an extra 3% of our cut.
Right.
And they kept 3% of ours.
Yep.
We need to talk to this tourism board about stepping up and paying us and participating a lot more. And you can show them, we brought in, for the month of July, the city of Roswell brought in 59 million in total, about 4 million is ours.
Or return 1% of those gross receipts on a statewide basis to the municipalities.
Yeah.
I mean, there's that revenue side again that We need to attack both sides.
Oh, yeah. But, okay, well, you explained that number to me, now I understand. Now it irritates me, the city's getting all the benefit, or the county, the state's getting all the benefit.
I don't understand it. We're getting the short end of the stick. That's what that tells me.
Game time, and so that's why I would say, go back to the tourism board. They need to talk about stepping up their game for us.
I will do that. Page 17 is the lodger's tax stuff. Any other questions on those ones?
No.
Page 18 is the report of what we had, and then 19 is our web stats, just kind of give you where people were coming from. Top 5 referrals, which is our Facebook page, from newmexico.org, which is the state tourism site. We got 4,813. See Roswell, and then if you can look at like your Instagram top 10 countries, you can kind of see obviously United States, Canada, Mexico, United Kingdom. If you look at the Facebook stats on page 20, that kind of just tells you the engagement over that 28-day period leading up to the festival and during the festival. Instagram, we had over 101,000 Instagram reach. Then on page 21 is the national attendance of those that actually bought tickets. This data was from Hold My Ticket. You can kind of see the red dots of where they come. It does coincide with our advertising campaign, which makes us happy in marketing. And on page 22 is some more data collection. The surveys, there was like 477 where they're coming from Texas, Arizona, Colorado. And then we broke out ticket sales on page 23 of where they bought tickets from. And then page 24, this was also from the survey data, how many nights they stayed. So most people, 28% of them were here for 2 nights or more. Then our visit widget, which is our mobile app. That is the application that we use for all tourism. If people want to go around through the city, we kind of put things to do, places to see during an event and during a festival. They can actually put geotag where they're at, and it'll give them like a little walking guide. So we had 56 users per day using that, which was really exciting. And then this is just more data on page 26 and page 27. What were the top 5 festival events that they came to town for? The popular answer were vendor booths. Where did you find information about the UFO Festival prior to attending? The answer was our UFOfestival.com website. In total, how much did you spend at local restaurants and on food while you were here? About $100 per day. Have you previously attended the Roswell UFO Festival? Popular answer was this was their first time. And that's it. Unless you have any more questions. You're welcome.
Thank you.
Look better than last report we looked at.
To Ms. Jennings' credit, she did go back and revise. I appreciate it.
Okay. Any questions?
No.
Okay.
Thank you.
So now we need to go to the Roswell Chaves County Economic Development District quarterly report. Ms. Jennings.
Yep, these are just the quarterly reports that we received from Roswell, Chaves County EDC and the Hispano Chamber. EDC is still working on their financials, and they will send those as soon as they are completed. This is just part of their annual contract that they have with the city. I collect the reports, I submit them to Finance Committee quarterly for you guys to review. The current contracts, I did Mr. Cole and Mr. Yadkin, they are going to work on the renewals because EDC, I believe, ends in January and the Hispano Chamber will end in June. And so they are currently working on those. And this is just information for EDC and for Hispano Chamber.
Any questions?
No.
Okay. You got any more on this chamber?
The Hispano Chamber, they did update the way that they're submitting their report, and they did revise their financial statements that Finance did review, or say that that format would work. But is there any other feedback that I need to provide to?
Well, I've got a question. I see where their income from their membership dues is about 10,500. And the indirect public support, I assume this is the money we send them, is 37,500. That means we're paying for the Hispano Chamber. And my general outlook on life is I don't mind helping, but I don't want to be the sole provider because I've got other things I need to be doing with that money, keeping our city running. And so they're not here, so my message to them is they better they really need to get their membership way up. I don't know, do you have any idea what their membership numbers are looking at now?
I don't off the top of my head, let me see, I think I saw something on here that submitted from one of their months, but it's definitely something that I can ask them. And do you guys want them to come to the quarterly meetings? They
No, I would
Okay.
just.
Okay, I didn't know, because that would be my fault. I usually hadn't, but if you wanted them to, I would.
No, I'm looking based, balancing what Mr. Cole just gave us versus trying to control our expenditures. We need to have a meeting with these other organizations because we probably need to look at our amount of support. EDC the same. I mean, they didn't send us any financials for me to go over. At least I didn't see any when I looked through this.
They haven't completed them. Mr. Spiritu said that as soon as they're done.
That's right. We'll talk about that when we get here, but I'm just looking at this. And when you look at the income and we're doing almost 4 times the money that they're generating on their own, we need to look at an adjustment and
Yes, sir.
they need to get their membership. What did you find?
No, it was their survey membership annually is what I was reading about.
Well, when we had this conversation, the first conversation.
A year ago.
It was, they had.
We're 78% of the revenue stream.
Okay.
Thought so. A year ago, we were 85%, but you know, they didn't have anything in it coming in the door at that point in time. The thing to look at, though, is you got to ask them now that they've made $18,000 for the first 9 months. What are they planning on using those funds for? I think that's part of the question.
That's a good question.
Tell us what you're going to do towards the community for those $18,000 and let us know. That's where I think,
And it's down.
Mr. Chairman, I think it's up from the previous year. They were $4,000 for the previous year. Now they're at $18,000.
If you look at August 31st, if I'm reading this right, it was 28 down to 18.
So that's just for the month. That's a balance sheet. What are you talking about?
Right here.
That's balance sheet.
I understand, but still, that's a $10,000 swing. I mean, I don't care. I'm not going to run their business.
Here's what it'll tell you. They had no revenue for the month of September.
Okay,
They had $10,000 in operating loss.
okay.
Is what
Maybe
they
I'm
had.
looking at the wrong sheet.
No, you got to look at 2 sheets together.
Okay,
So what they had was they recorded their revenue for the Piñata Fest at some point in time. And now they just now recorded $6,600 of expense. So you got to look at the year-to-date number.
I see.
So for the 10 month or the 9 months, they've generated $18,000.
Okay.
But it goes back to your, what's the return on
I
it?
got to teach him some things every now and then.
So,
I appreciate
Mr.
it.
Chair, members of the committee, my questions back to them are, what are they charging for membership dues? And then what are they going to use the 18,000?
And what is their total
What's
membership?
And total
their plan? What's their
Yeah.
plan?
I got it. I will get those answers.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, so what else we got today? That's my agenda here. Oh, public participation. We're done. That was item 20, according to my,
Well, you're the chairman, whatever you want it to be, it'll be.
our public participation. Anybody online want to say anything? Oh, we got some questions. December step increase. Now, those are the same ones we looked at.
Yeah, but the bottom one.
The chief next to receipt report for July, arts, entertainment, and retail sector.
That is correct.
That's where the 59 million came from.
Yes.
Yes.
Just from that sector.
Yes, column N, that's all I know is that's the one that is on that report.
All right,
That's a quick
anybody else?
response.
Yeah. Okay, Miss Rita, you've been sitting there jumping up and down in your. Yes, you have. You were sitting there jumping up and down before I started the meeting.
Rita Kane Dorhofer, very narrow unstriped Chicago Bears mailbox. I can't find the University of Miami mailbox, Park Road. Anyway, I have a couple of questions and a couple of statements. For the volunteers, were they actually volunteers, the 90 of them, or did you count the community service workers?
I believe they were the actual volunteers.
And you have the records for the actual volunteers?
I would have to.
If somebody requested them, you would give the actual volunteers?
We would get all of the records.
That's all I know, need to know. Also, when Main Street Roswell ran it, they had a lot more money than when the city ran it. Just making a statement. Also, another statement I'd like to make is just because something is in the budget and you have a PO for it, doesn't mean that you need to spend the money. A need is different than a want. And many people need to know the difference between a need and a want. All right, I was told that I couldn't ask anything about the zoo. So I'm not going to ask about the zoo. But I want to know, Scarlett died in, when did she pass? July 31st of 2022. Did we file any reports on Scarlett? She is a national animal, and only certain people were allowed to have Scarlett. When she died, what happened to her body, and were any reports filed on Scarlett?
Frankly, Rita, I don't know
Okay.
on Scarlett. When was?
Do you know what Scarlett was?
No, I don't.
She was a red-tailed hawk. We got it from Steve Patterson when he left Bottomless Lakes. And she could only be given to somebody that had the proper paperwork.
Did you get the listing and was?
Right here.
That listing was.
Right here.
Is Scarlett in there?
Scarlett, right here.
Okay.
Would you like a copy of it?
I've got a copy of it. I just don't have it in front of me. But Scarlett's on the list. Okay.
Is on the list, and she is a national treasure, and you have to have certain paperwork for Scarlett. And then when she dies, I believe I know the paperwork needs to be filed. I don't know what you do with the body. What did you do with the body?
So I'm not sure.
I was asking Juanita, what did you do with her body? You do not, weren't you in charge of the zoo at this time?
So let me.
You weren't in 2022?
We have a zoo director.
But didn't the zoo director report to you? Okay, so you still don't know what happened to the body. Okay, I'm just saying that. Lord knows, I don't think that the federal government knows yet what happened to Scarlett. They probably think Scarlett is still alive.
So let me just chime in and get everybody up to speed real quick on this. There's some of this I can talk about, some of it I can't. Part of it is a special audit consideration. I have reported this, the giving away of the animals and the deaths of the animals to the state auditor's office, to New Mexico Game and Fish. That is official at this point.
I'm concerned about Scarlett.
I understand.
I mean, she was a special red-tailed hawk.
And that's why I asked if she's on that list.
She is on
Has
this
been
list.
reported.
And they say she died. I hope we didn't burn her body or bury her in the backyard, because I believe her body needed to go back.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I don't expect any response, but thank you. Thank you. I'm very concerned about the zoo, and I'm concerned about other things on the zoo. And you know, I chatted with you about my educational skills.
I'd love to use them. Yes.
Anything else, Miss Rita?
No, I think my 3 minutes is up. Oh, yes, I think you need to take Jenna and Jennifer to lunch at Summit because they do such a good job at the airport. You probably need somebody there as a monitor, probably a University of Miami, Chicago Bears and Cubs fan as a monitor.
Chaperone?
We don't have it in the budget, Rita.
Thank you.
Thank you for offering.
Okay.
It's not a need.
Anything else?
It's not a want, it's a need.
It's a thank you for spending the money instead of taking it back off the table.
Yeah.
That's what that is.
Anybody else? Once, twice, we're adjourned.